With the season of spring fast approaching, the best way for a gardener to get a head start on the growing season is to sprout his seedlings indoors, let the plants get big and strong, and then transfer them to the garden beds. I'm going to show you how I made my seed starting box to do exactly this with materials that were lying around my house, and also a couple I had to buy. I first started with a 4x8 sheet of plywood, 5/8 inch thick. I cut out 5 pieces of wood to construct a box that was length and widthwise 1 foot by 1 foot, but was also 2 feet tall. It does take 6 sides to make a proper box, so you may be wondering why I only cut out 5 pieces. Well, that's because I'm going to use a wooden nightstand as a base for a box, rather than a piece of plywood. A table as a base will do 2 things. 1, elevate the box a little higher off the ground, and also, it'll look a little bit better. If you don't have the spare nightstand you can cut up, then just skip this step entirely. I did have to cut up the nightstand so that the top of the table fit the dimensions of my box, which was a square foot. After all the pieces were ready for assembly, I assembled them. I used a nail gun for 4 pieces, and by 4 pieces I mean the top piece and the 3 sides. The other side is going to be the door, which is going to be put on with hinges, so disregard that for a moment. So I used a nail gun, and that was a horrible idea because it splintered off a few chunks of wood due to the diameter of the nail and the velocity of the nail. I would recommend using small nails and a hammer for the assembly. This is just going to make it a whole lot cleaner and a whole lot easier, but that's the joy of watching someone else's project. You get to learn from their mistakes. If you do use screws, I would recommend some pilot holes to avoid splitting the plywood. I did use screws, but only to fasten the assembled box to the nightstand. Now I couldn't do that directly. I had to use a chunk of wood to screw to the box and then screw that to the nightstand to where I'm pretty much screwing each of the 2 pieces to another piece. Also for the door I slapped it on the box with some hinges, and I bought that at the hardware store. I also added a doorknob because, well, I wanted to add a doorknob. Get off my back, son. With the main pieces of the box constructed, it was time to cut some holes. I cut a hole on top as a means of securing the lighting system to the top, and also 4 holes on one side of the box for ventilation, and then a hole on the other side, but lower, also for ventilation. This step may seem vague and confusing, but fear not, as all will come to fruition later in the video. Now for the lighting system. I had an old globe lamp with a burnt out bulb laying around the house, and I thought it'd be perfect for a project like this, being that it's touch activated. So I disassembled it and found it had an E12 socket on it. This is problematic because I bought a full spectrum bulb that was an E27 bulb, so in order to solve the problem I had to buy an E12 to E27 adapter that will go between each of the 2 to make ends meet, so to speak. This worked well. If you do somehow manage to find a touch activated globe lamp somewhere to mimic the project, make sure you find a bulb that is under the wattage rating of the lamp. The lamp I had was a 25 watt maximum rating, so I bought an 18 watt full spectrum bulb on Amazon. It was like $3 though, which is concerning. I mean, there's no way that isn't gonna cause troubles later, but I mean, we'll see. Alright. I had to fasten a touch sensor to the base. See, the touch sensor was a little wire that screwed onto the lamp essentially, to where when you touch any part of metal, the light will turn on. So I kind of just bent that together to the actual base of the lamp, and then I'm gonna put all the wires and everything under that, put it on top, and then have the bulb hanging down through the hole we already cut, and that way everything is gonna look nice and clean. Now that the lighting is done, it's time for ventilation. I used an old CPU fan I had laying around as a fan for the project, and an AC to 12 volt DC adapter for a power source. After some playing around with the wires, I found out which wires the fan needed to be powered for the fan to spin. Then I spliced them together and used some electrical tape to secure them. Spoken like a true craftsman, am I right? Now that I knew the setup worked, I took it apart and mounted the fan inside the box right on the 4 holes we cut earlier. This would allow the fan to bring in new fresh air, filled with carbon dioxide from my mouth-breathing self, into the box, only to be turned into oxygen by the plants and exhausted through the other hole I cut on the opposite side of the box. But wait, there's more. The fan was also bringing in ambient temperature air, which would cool off the LED bulb as it was blowing into the heat sinks of it. Not only that, but this now warmed up the air that would have to travel all throughout the box in order to ventilate on the other side and lower down, which would make the box nice and warm for the plants to thrive. 3 birds, 2 stones. Keep it coming. I had to run the wires through a hole on the top of the box that would be covered by the piece of metal I was using to cover the lighting wires. Both the light plug and the fan plug would be hidden and ran from the back side of the box so that can easily be plugged into an outlet without anyone seeing the wires for the most part. And just like that, I had a grow box that was done. And I could have used it right there and been done with it, but with plants comes moisture, and with moisture comes mold and mildew. Plus, having an unstained piece of wood just rubs me the wrong way. So I caulked the inside of the box and all the cracks, hot glued the socket up to the top of that bulb hole, and then I caulked that as well. This will make it all watertight. After that was dry, I painted the inside of the box green and stained the outside of the box to match the nightstand with the black walnut stain. Then on the inside of the box, I sprayed some metallizer Plasti-Dip to give the inside a reflective sheen. This will help refract the light from the bulb all around the box to make the plants hopefully absorb a little bit more light. Also, Plasti-Dip is waterproof and heat resistant to like 350 degrees, so this may prevent the project from going up in flames later due to a $3 bulb incident. I also sprayed the outside with polyurethane to give it a proper gloss, and just like that, the box was completed. This video shows you mainly how I built my seed starting box. It would be difficult for you to exactly replicate this project, but by me showing you how I built it, it'll give you a little bit better of an understanding and pave the way for you in addition to the thousands of other videos that there are on how to build one. I do plan on doing some update videos of the box in the next few weeks, showing some plants thriving and doing well in the box. So by all means, come back to the channel, check those videos out when they do arrive, and subscribe to see more similar projects to this. Smash that like button for the sake of my self-worth, and feel free to constructively criticize my hack job in the cancerous comment section. Speaking of criticism, I realize the project was constructed with a slurry of chemicals and things that may affect the title of my plants being organic. Well, to be fair, there isn't anything really organic about growing plants indoors anyways if you have to create artificial wind and sunlight for them. On top of that, I let my box sit outside for a few days to air out, so the fumigation, the stain and Plasti-Dip would make all the plants not do silly things. You gotta flash all that stuff off because it smelled absolutely awful in there. This is a bit overcautious, but I do love my plants and I treat them with the utmost respect. Thanks for watching. Wiedersehen.